It is another episode of Girl Talk with Belle. This is also a collaboration with Breaking the Ceiling and the Radio Fam. And I'm so excited to have this guest on. I'm going to tell you why. Because I have been watching her journey since she hit the ground in Raleigh, North Carolina, where I'm from. And so when she came in and I saw her, I was like, oh, excuse my language. Oh, shit. Who is this? She's recognizable. I've seen her before. And then when I met her in person, she was even more lit. Welcome to my show, Autumn Joi.
Hey, girl, that was such a good intro. I'm gonna have to use that.
Yes, I got the roadcaster. I give applause to all my guests now. I'm learning the hotkeys and everything. But yes, welcome. Thank you so much for being a part of this, production. Man, I've been waiting to have you on for a while, actually.
Here I am. I'm ready.
You hear it now. Perfect timing. What they say, all in God's timing, not your timing.
Amen. Come on now on a good Sunday. Yes.
Yes. Amen. Amen. Hallelujah. All right. So we're not even going to play no games. We're going to jump right into it. Let's go ahead and talk about your radio journey because it's a lot more relatable than people would think. So let's talk about it. Go ahead and give us the background.
Well, you know what's so funny? I kind of chuckle when people think that Raleigh was where I started,
right.
You know, but what a lot of people don't know is I started my radio journey in 2001. So yeah, I had a full track scholarship down to Bethune-Cookman. And of course, when I got there, I discovered boys and, you know, it went from going to track practice to going for my boyfriends or, you know, whatever. So I ended up losing partial half of my scholarship. So my parents were like, look, we didn't send you to Daytona Beach to like be down there messing around. So come home. So I was home for a year, depressed, working a regular job. You know, I was like 19. I didn't know what direction I wanted to go in. So I'm driving down the street one day and I heard a commercial come over the radio for interns. So I was like, oh, you know what? I've always loved radio since I was young. So I was like, you know what? Let me see what this is about. So I went to the station and the other people that were sitting in the lobby had on like blazers. The girls had on pencil skirts. And here comes Autumn Joi with jeans, thigh-high boots that were like tan, the stiletto, like a fur coat with my purse. And I'm just like, oh, snap. This might be a little too much. So I honestly just didn't think I was going to get it. I was like, yeah, nah, I'm good. So I went for the interview, but the girls that interviewed me fell in love with me. Like they really liked me. Shout out to my girls, Sarah, Connor, Majima Pritchett. But yeah, so they were telling me that I was going to be an intern on the programming side. And again, not knowing radio terminology, I'm like, oh, cool. What's that? Oh, we're going to put you with Donnie Simpson. I was like, Donnie Simpson? Like, he is a radio giant. He's a legend. Like, I was just going to be happy to be in promotions passing out t-shirts, but you're going to put me with Donnie? So I was like, all right. So I had to be up every morning by 5:00, get to the station. I did a show prep, everything. And that was the year that American Idol, I think it was like Justin Guarini and Kelly Clarkson. That was the year that they won. So girl, I'm old. I'm a dinosaur. But yeah, so he was like, Autumn, do you watch American Idol? I was like, yeah. He was like, all right, when you come in the morning, let's do like a recap. So I'm like, all right, bet. So I'm thinking he meant like me type something up, write some notes, something that he could read. No, girl. He was like, all right, Autumn, come sit at Mike B. I was like, oh, still completely oblivious to what was about to happen. So I'm like, oh, all right, cool. I had his paper. So I'm just sitting there like, he's like, oh, put the headphones on. So I grabbed I'm literally like, well, what is about to happen? And so he comes up, he does his intro and he's like, all right, so, you know, Autumn Joi. I was like, but it was in that moment when I heard myself talk in HD in the headphones, I was like, oh.
You fell in love with it.
I fell in love with my voice. I said, ooh, girl, you sound good. So that was the moment where I realized like, you know what? I could talk on the radio. I could do this. And I haven't looked back since. And after that, you know, I got an internship in Miami at 99 Jams. I was down there. Shout out to Shelby Russian. She was doing midday. So I got to intern under her. That's where I met Derek Baker. And when I was there, that was when DJ Khaled still had his show at nights. And DJ Khaled went on vacation. So Derek let me fill in with him on DJ Khaled's show. And so I'm there doing my thing. People started calling in like, yo, who is that? She sounds so good. The DJ, the popular DJ, he's the DJ for Miami Heat. His name is escaping me right now, but he gave me kudos on air. So I knew like, oh, snap, this is about to be lit. So that was just the beginning. And then I got overnights at WKYS. I was there for a while. I did a stint in Delaware. I moved to New York. I lived in New York for a little over a year. Yeah, I was working with thisis50.com. I had my own show on their website. I was on Shade 45 with the Gomez brothers. I co-hosted with 50 Cent a few times, so yeah, girl, I've been doing this for a little while. So, but then of course, like everything, I hit like a brick road, brick wall. And all of my radio dreams just literally stopped. So after I moved back from New York back home to Maryland, I didn't have any radio opportunities that were opening up. So I had to get a regular job. I worked at Enterprise Rent-A-Car. I was doing the Enterprise thing. And you know how hard it is to be checking somebody into their car and they're like, you have such a good voice. You should be on the radio. And I'm just like, my God, thank you so much. Here's your receipt. Thanks for saying that. Like, I know, but those were the moments that, of course, that humbled me, but it also made me work harder. And so that's when I launched my internet radio show, Star Power Radio. And I utilized like how you're doing, reaching across the aisle, people that I know in real life, like, hey, can you come on my show? So I got like Kevin Durant, Drea from Basketball Wives back then, Wale, Shy Glizzy, Fat Trell, so all of these people, because I had personal relationships with them, they would come on my show and just show me love. And so my internet show really, it did well for it to be an internet radio show. So from there, I decided, I was like, you know what, let me spruce up my air check. Let me just send it out and see if anybody bites. It was like a Tuesday at 2:48 p.m., just a random day. So I did the air check. I sent it out to every PD that I knew and nobody responded back. Nobody even said, oh, thank you for this. But again, we've all been there.
Right.
The only PD that responded back is Al Payne. And he was the one, because when I worked at KYS, he was the PD for a little while and he remembered me and always liked my voice. So when he responded back, he was like, hey, Autumn, you're still doing radio? I was like, yeah, I'm still around. And he was the one that opened the door back up for me into radio. Wow. And so I got 10 p.m. to 2 a.m. at 92Q in Baltimore. And so that's how I got back into radio, thanks to Al Payne. And from that opportunity, middays in Raleigh opened up and Derek Baker was the PD in Raleigh. So remember my internship in Miami. So those relationships are so important, to just keep fostering those relationships and to always just be a good person, because people remember that. And so when Derek Baker hit me up for the opportunity, I was actually a property manager at the time. Just a regular 9 to 5. I was doing radio part-time at 92Q. So I was doing 10 p.m. to 2 a.m. and then had my full-time job from 8 until 5. So it was like that for a while. But girl, I was like, I'm back in radio. Right. I'll make this thing work. I'll figure it out. I packed my son up, had him in the studio with me. Like, I just made sure it worked. And so when the opportunity at K975 came open, it was like a $30,000 pay cut. But the opportunity to be back full time on radio was really what I desired and I wanted. So I had to make a choice. Do I become a big fish in a small pond in Raleigh? Or do I keep trying to swim upstream in a market that you really can't grow like that?
Right.
And so I stepped out on faith and packed my little bags up, packed my son up. We moved down to Raleigh. I didn't know a soul. I didn't know anything about North Carolina or Raleigh, but I just knew that I got the opportunity to be full-time in radio. And shout out to Derek Baker, because he really was a hands-on PD, but still hands-off. So he let me do my thing while I was there. And so I just hit the ground running. and was like, and you're, and I didn't know you were from Raleigh. So yeah, that was new to find out.
I'm from Winston-Salem, but
Oh
Raleigh's
yeah.
like an hour away. You know
Yeah,
what
yeah,
I'm
yeah,
saying?
yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's like when I heard that you were gonna, I was in Charlotte at the time when the story came down that you were doing it, and so when
Yeah.
I saw it, I was just like, wow, you. First of all, I recognized you from somewhere, but I didn't know where yet at the time, and we're gonna get to that in a little bit. And
Mm.
then two, I was just like, I just talked because I met Derek when I first moved back home from Vegas. I met Derek. I conversated ain't a word, okay, y'all. Just don't judge me. But I had conversations with him. I had been going back and forth with him. I applied to a couple of positions, and so when I saw that you got hired, I was like, "Damn, Derek, I've been talking to you for a while." You know, I was just like, "Dang!" But at the end of the day, you killed it there.
Yeah.
Okay. And you talked about some very important things. One, you worked with some legends. I mean, Donnie Simpson is a legend. You know what I'm saying? Two, you talk about fostering relationships and keeping those relationships in order because it brought you back into radio at a time that you didn't think you were going to get back in.
Yeah.
And three, having that faith, taking a leap of faith. And even though it was a pay cut, because, you know, we don't do radio for the money. We do it for the love of it. Mm-hmm. But you were able to take that leap of faith, and now it's brought you to a top 5 market. You know what I'm saying? You're back home in Maryland, but you're not necessarily in Maryland. You're in Washington, D.C. at a legendary station, at a legendary HBCU, you know, at Howard University. And you're with WHUR, which had a lot of legends come out of that market, out of that station itself. And so your story comes around full circle. But I do want to circle back a little bit.
Yeah, please do.
I want to, obviously, a lot of us would love to work with someone like Donnie Simpson. Yeah. You know, I met him, I saw him in person, I was like, dang, them green eyes is real.
Oh, green eyes, what's up?
Right, exactly. They really real. How was it working with him, you know, doing the internship with him? What are some of the lessons that you learned while you were under him?
Well, first of all, Donnie Simpson was the one that changed my name to my name. So I was going by Autumn Joi. Like, he was like, now that you're on the radio, I was like, oh, you know what? I can just Autumn Joi. And he literally was like, no, that sounds like a stripper's name. He was like, literally. And I was like, okay. He was like, your name, Autumn Joi, is unique enough. Just go with your name. And I was like, all right. And thank God I did, girl, because that was the best piece of advice that he gave me. But he also, watching Donnie work and his work ethic and understanding the way that he opened his brakes, the way that he thought about what he was going to say, even like his interview style, I paid attention to. And he's a very conversational interviewers. So if you listen to any of my interviews, it's a conversation. Like, I have a series called Candid Conversations I do on HUR, and I call it that because I don't want to just ask the cookie cutter questions. Like, let's talk. Like, let's, you know, I interviewed Ashanti the other day, and I got so many comments like, yo, y'all sounded like y'all were homegirls. I've never met Ashanti a day in my life. I love her. She's dope. But it's like, but that's how I wanted it to be. And I go back to Donnie Simpson because I paid attention to how he interviewed. Also his tone, you know, when you're talking, be conversational. You're not, hey, 96.3 WHUR. That's not real. And I used to talk like that because I heard other jocks doing that. Mm-hmm. So I used to try to be like this. And that's not me. You know, like it wasn't connecting because it sounds commercial. And so listening to how Donnie talked, very conversational, it drew you in. Mm-hmm. It made you want to listen. It made you feel like when he was talking as you're driving, you're conversing back with him, like, yeah, no. And that's how you want your listeners to feel. You want them to feel like they're having a conversation with you. And so those were the key points that I took away, you know, and just how to be gracious. You know, and even though he was Donnie Simpson and like, oh, he's a legend and everybody loves him, he was so gracious. Like, he never not took a picture. He never not spoke to anybody. He was very nice, like very down to earth. His wife, Pam, was amazing. She used to make me collard greens and he would bring them to work for me. Yeah, I hung out at the house with his daughter, Dawn, and DJ a few times. Like, you know, so I became like a part of the family. And I was actually there for his very last show at WPGC. And of course, the studio was like filled with people and, everybody was in there. So I kind of like moved towards the back because I wasn't trying to be in the way.
Right.
And right on his last break, girl, he was like, and last but not least, I want to thank my intern, Autumn Joi. And I was like,
Right.
and so I'm like, excuse me, trying to go, excuse me, that's my cue, and so, but it was an unpaid internship. So mind you, I was there, it was just the summertime, but I was there every morning by 5 a.m. making sure he had everything that him and Chris Paul had everything that they needed. And so, so the fact that he shouted me out on his last break, on his last show, and then handed me an envelope with $500, yes. Girl, I still got that. I still got that envelope. I don't have the $500 no more.
Well, obviously not.
but yeah, girl, I should have brought it up here. But yeah, so I think that having the opportunity to be under a legend as my first gig, I mean, at the time, you don't really realize how big of a deal is. But yeah, as I've progressed, I'm just like, thank God, he ordered my steps and put me in situations and put me exactly where I needed to be. Because even though I couldn't see HUR right now, my dream job, finally getting paid my worth,
right,
he put me in those situations to prepare me for that.
Wow.
Sorry, I know.
I know. I'm just like, I'm listening into your story and I'm just soaking it all in because it really is true. Because one thing I do want to ask you, I don't even know if I said that right now. I'm sleepy. I'm like, I've been interviewing all day, and you get to a point where like your social anxiety, and then your brain is like, oh my God.
Yeah.
But in all of that, with working with Donnie Simpson, interning and working over at 99 Jams, and being up under or working off of DJ Khaled's show, which I mean, obviously DJ Khaled is huge now. Somewhere in between that, you decided to dip into the world of reality television.
I did.
Exactly. So I want to know, how did you end up in reality television? If you guys don't know, I think it was season 3. Am I right? Yeah. Season 3. Autumn was on season 3 of Flavor of Love, and her name on there was Seasons.
Yep.
Okay, and that right, and that's how I figured out who you were, because I was like looking at her, I was like, God darn it, she's familiar. I've seen her face before, but I just can't remember where. Yeah. So when I was working in Charlotte, and I was sitting with Eddie Owens, who is a Charlotte legend in radio. Yeah. We were looking at it, we were talking about it, and he was like, I want to look it up. Who is this girl? I want to look her up. I said, she's been on either season 2 or 3. I can't remember. So we started looking you up, and we looked, and I saw your face, and I was like, God damn it, I knew I saw her face from so.
Yeah, girl. Flavor of Love, man.
How did you even end up on this show? Like, what made you want to do it?
So I was like everybody else early on. Like with season 1, glued in, must see TV. I loved hoops. I was rooting for hoops. Season 2, glued in. New York, of course, was the villain, but she still made for good TV. It wasn't until the 3rd season when they were casting, and they came to DC. At the time, I was doing overnights at WKYS. And so the lady who was doing midday, shout out to Jeannie Jones, she was doing middays at KYS, and she was like, Autumn, you'd be great on reality TV. I was like, oh, I've heard that before. She's like, I mean, you should go out for Flavor of Love. I said, I ain't going out there kissing Flavor. I was like everybody else with, I don't know, I'm good, girl. Like, I'm fine. Then she was like, well, I know some of the producers. So because they were doing casting at like a nightclub. I'm like, I'm not doing all that. But she was like, if you want, just go talk to the producer, see how it goes. If you don't get it, cool. If you do, cool. So I was like, all right, Jeannie, I'll go. So I went, we met at this hotel right in downtown DC. I go to the room. They had like the lights and everything set up. And we sit down. They had a whole series of questions. We maybe got to like the 4th question, and they asked me something about shoes. I love shoes. Shoes and purses are my thing. So we just started talking about like shoes, different types of shoes. I'm standing up, twirling around, doing this, doing that, cracking jokes. And they were like, when I say like tears coming out their eyes, laughing at me, they didn't even get the rest of the questions in. And then the lady was like, listen, I love you. I'm going to make sure you're on the show. So I'm like, okay, so whatever. Like Hollywood talk. I know how that goes. So that next weekend, me and my girlfriends went to Miami. And so I get a phone call for a 310 number. I'm like, I don't know nobody in Cali. Girl, it was the producer. Like, hey, it's such and such from Flavor of Love. Wow. We loved your audition tape. We would love to bring you on the show. I was like, I'm looking at my girl. We laying on the beach. I said, this is okay. So they faxed my contract. The contract was like this thick. They faxed it to the hotel. I took like stacks and gave it to my whole girl. I was like, here, you take that, just initial at the bottom. I wasn't reading all that. You initial here, you initial there. I had to go get an STD check. So contrary to popular belief, you have to pass a full STD check because some of the girls do have sex with Flav. I was not one of them. Oh. And I hated getting that question after I was off the show. I was like, no, like you don't.
I wouldn't ask you that. No.
Yeah, it was. I'm just like, all right, y'all was trying to be messy. But so I ended up, going out there, and I did not think I was going to make it that far. The first day, the first shot, you'll remember. Every season, the very first shot, all the girls are lined up by the front door. Mm-hmm. Flav pulls up in the driveway. We're like, oh, all excited. All of the girls, I kid you not, they all had on little mini skirts, stilettos, boobies out. And here comes Autumn with jeans and a leather bomber. And I'm like, snap. I'm not going to make it far. Like, this ain't for me. Then when they opened the doors, they all ran in. I just casually walked in. And they're like, they started early. They were like downstairs drinking, trying to get camera time. And I was just like, man, what am I doing? Like, I'm already on the radio. Like, I have a career. Like, do I really need to be doing this? And it wasn't until I was upstairs sitting in one of the rooms with another one of the girls who was kind of over it, and we were just kind of waiting. One of the producers came out and they were like, are you guys going to go downstairs and socialize? I was like, oh, I'm just waiting for you guys to tell me, what time my one-on-one time is with Flav. And they were like, oh no, because they already gave other girls. So girls that they knew were going to stay, like the more outlandish girls, they gave them one-on-one time, but the rest of us had to kind of try to get it. And so I had to make a decision. In that moment, I was like, okay, do I want to be the girl from DC that got sent home early, or like the first episode, or do I really just legit want to see how this thing goes? So I was like, bump it. Let's see how it goes. So I had a picture. My brother at the time was incarcerated. And so he literally, like, I went to visit him before I left, and he told me, he's like, man, Autumn, do that shit. Why not? Like, right. It's good promotion, bump it. So I grabbed a picture of me and my brother, and Flav was sitting downstairs in one of the chairs, and it was like one girl, Prancer, my girl Prancer, that's my girl. She was sitting on one side. This other girl who got cut the first episode, I don't remember her name. She was sitting on the other side. Other girls were standing around him. So I was like, okay, I got to get him away from these girls. What do I do? So I was like, just be bold. So I walked up. I said, Flav, if you want to deal with a real woman, come and holla at No, I said, Flav, if you want to deal with a real woman that doesn't have to do all of this for attention, come and holla at Seasons. The girls like, whatever. But Flav looked at me. He was like, excuse me, pick the girl. He was like, I'm going with Seasons. He got up. I was like, oh shit, it worked. Oh, it worked. Okay. And so he grabbed my hand, and it's so funny because I didn't think it was going to work. We started walking, and there was like some curtains right here. And so I was like, all right. So I pulled the curtain back. It was a wall. I was like, oh, let's go over here. So he sat down, and, I showed him the picture of my brother, and I was like, hey, listen, I'm from DC. My brother, he's incarcerated. He's the one that told me to come on. I'm not here for all of that. I'm here to get to know. Like, I was honest with him. Mm-hmm. And from that point on, he was always checking for me. But like, we became really good friends over the whole shooting. We really became he really became a really cool friend. And so he really liked me. I made top 3. Like, I made it very far. Right. I got eliminated off some BS, but it did get to a point after being there for 3 months, ready to go. In a house with all girls, and as a fully heterosexual female, after a while, you need some man. I'm just like, look,
you want Flavor Flavs.
No, like, so when it came down to it, our trip, first season, they went to Mexico. Second season, they went to Vegas. But our season, we went to the south of France. So when they told us our trip was to the south of France, I was like, oh, I'm definitely staying around and long enough for that. So yeah, so I mean, I ended up getting eliminated in France, but it was cool. And the producers, I had like an arch nemesis on the show. Her name was Sincere. So me and her were constantly going back and forth. Oh God, that was our storyline. Yeah.
I think and so.
Right. And so before I knew I was about to get eliminated, so the producers, they were coming in, you know, doing my mic or whatever. And they were like, you know what? You should go out with a bang. Like you should hit Sincere. And I was looking like, no, thank you. Like I was very aware that this would be YouTubeable. And I'm not trying to be that chick that people can pull footage up of me like getting into a physical altercation. So I knew I was getting eliminated. I went, gave Flav a hug, said bye to the ladies, and I'll chuck the deuces, girl. Like, but it was an experience. Like I don't regret it. It was a moment in time. I had so much fun. You know, I didn't have to work for like 2 years after that because I was either getting booked or, you know, just enjoying, you know, being flown around by different actors and athletes and people that just wanted to be around. So yeah, girl, that's a whole nother podcast. But yeah, no, it was such a good time, you know, and I'm just happy that I was a part of history because Flavor of Love definitely kicked off all of the reality shows that we walked so love and hip hop could fly.
Right, exactly. Fly, run, act the fool, all that stuff. Would you ever do reality television again if you had the chance?
Not for love though. Like I would do it for if it was like a money show. I would compete for some money. Oh yeah. I've gotten asked this before because I know Real Housewives of Potomac, they're casting, like they're looking for people. And I've had a couple of people approach me, you know, and I wouldn't want to do anything like that because I'm a firm believer that reality shows mess up relationships, especially if you're it just does something to marriages, relationships.
Right.
And I value my man. I value our relationship. I value our space and our privacy too much to put it all on the forefront and for us to implode because we have to maintain some sort of a storyline. Yeah. So drama. And it took me too long to find the man of my dreams. I'm good. So I will continue to enjoy everybody else's storylines, but no, thank you. I'll be like a homegirl of like a main character. So if J Belle gets, you know, cast and you're like, oh, let's go out to lunch. All right, girl, I'll meet you. You know, I'll do that. But I ain't trying to have cameras following me around.
No main character for you. You're like, you be the friend of the show. I get what you're saying, and I definitely understand being in a relationship and the role that you play. Obviously, a lot of you women that are going to be watching this or guys you watching this, if you've seen Autumn Joi's journey when it comes to being in love, at one point you were engaged to get married. Yeah. It didn't end up working out, so you took some time for yourself. And then you found the man that you're currently with.
Manifested, girl.
Right. You manifest your man. And so
manifested my man.
And you guys seem to have a really great relationship. You were long distance for a while until you got your job in D.C. and he came and moved up from Atlanta with you. Yeah. And you guys look so cute together. So, you know, a matter of maintaining your work and your personal life. How do you work through that? How do you work through that? That's not a question I expected to ask, but let's talk about that a little bit.
No, that's a great question. And J Belle, can I just say you're doing amazing. I love you. I love your energy. You're so dope at this. Like I really am. I've watched your journey too. So, but I'm gonna give you your flowers at the end. Okay. But you know what it is? Like people say, oh, I separate work from. No, I involve him in everything. And being a radio personality, you have to know random stuff. Like you got to stay on top of what's happening. We can never really fully unplug as much as we want to. Right. We can't fully unplug because we're the people that thousands, millions of people listen to and get information from. So when it concerns my relationship, I immerse him completely in it. He helps me with my Talk to Me Tuesday topics. I'll if he has like homegirls that are in the area for my Wow Wednesday, he's hooked me up with like 3 of his friends for Wow Wednesday that are dope women here in the DMV. Okay. He'll give me stuff to talk about. He's like really like submerged in like the COVID stuff, and he watches the YouTube channels and listens to the doctors. So he's the person that I get a lot of my information from. So trust me when I tell you, girl, he balances me out, but he also like feeds me at the same time. And as a dominant female, in pretty much all of my relationships, I've been like the one to kind of dominate. And it just feels good to finally relinquish that power to somebody that I trust to have it, if that makes sense. So like it went from never mind, I'll figure it out, hour to, oh, okay, you got it. Okay, you got it, babe. All right. Let me go get my manicure then. I'm not gonna worry about it, And it just feels good to have a grown ass man. There's a difference between a grown man and a grown ass man that takes care of business, takes care of his woman. And for the first time in my career, I can focus on my career. I don't have to worry about outside elements. When I was in Raleigh, it was just me and my son. So I had to worry about outside elements. Now, I'm home. I've got my family. I've got my support system, and I found the love of my life. So he's completely immersed in everything that I do. And it goes back to the reality question. I need that more than I need attention from the world, because I've already had it. I already did reality TV. Thank God it was before. It was just MySpace and like Twitter. So thank God it was before Instagram and all these other. So, I was able to I got it though. I got people talking smack about me, coming at me, putting out rumors, people that knew me in college. I'm like, what? So I've already been through it. Right. It's just that I wouldn't want to put any of my loved ones or people that I care about through all of that, because it's not worth it.
Right. And I'm glad you talked about that, because I was going to ask you, how does reality TV differ or is different today than it was when you were on it? And you kind of just broke it down because of things of like social media. Everything is so much out there. And I want to also ask you, what is the biggest misconception about reality television from your experience?
That it's reality, and in actuality it's not. Like we have story producers, people that, so I'll give you an example. So the day after the first night, when I, went to Flav and all that stuff, the next day they had like a little shack in the back where we would go and do our interviews, where they would ask us questions. You know how like you see action, and it'll cut away to a girl talking by herself. Right. So we would have to like go, we had times we had to go back there. So I went back, I did my questions, I came back into the kitchen. A bunch of girls were in the kitchen, kind of chit chat. And it was like mid-afternoon cooking, whatever. We were just all standing around talking. We had these things called bat caves. The bat caves were like the area that had a bunch of curtains, but if you opened it, it was like a room, and that's where like all the producers were, like in the other half of the house. Wow. So the bat cave open, producer comes out, Seasons, we need to change your battery pack. I'm like, oh, okay, go over. As she's changing my battery pack, she's like, listen, if you want to stay, I suggest you go and confront Sincere about what she said about you earlier. Now, mind you, I don't know who a Sincere is. I don't know what she said, because I was in the back doing my interviews. So I was like, oh, what did she say? And she was like, she didn't say anything else. She just walked off. So I was like, and then all of a sudden the cameras come shoot right in my face. So I'm like,
they set you up.
Yeah. So I'm like, okay. So I went to this girl, her name was St. Louis. I said, St. Louis, do you know what's Sincere? Oh yeah, girl, she impersonated you. They told her to impersonate some people in the house, and somebody said, do Seasons. And she just sat there. So I guess indicating that I was like a boring whatever.
Wow.
So me, Autumn is like, okay, whatever. But then it clicked. Okay, these story producers needed to create a story. And so clearly, after they saw how Flav responded to me and I became one of his favorites, they needed to create my storyline with somebody. And so I went into like the living room area. Mind you, I've never been in a physical fight my entire life. So of course I'm like shaking, like, oh my God, like I don't want to fight. Like, please don't beat me up. I'm too pretty. So I go into the living room, and I was like, I asked one of the guys, I said, which one is Sincere? They were like the girl on the couch. Of course, the loudest. I was like, oh my God, why did it have to be this girl? Like the loudest, most annoying. The one girl, I was like, I'm staying away from her. So I walk up and I'm like, are you Sincere? She's sitting on the couch. She's like, yeah. I said, so I heard that you impersonated me. What'd you do? And so I stood back, and she was like, exactly that. Ooh. I was like, okay. don't do that again. Like, I didn't know how to start a fight. And then she got hip. She started kind of looking around, and then she jumped up, got in my face, and turned way up. And so from that point on, it was just like, even on like a Sunday, I'd be like, girl, it's the Lord's Day. Can we not argue? Like, I just want to lay here and not have to fart. Like, she was the worst person to have like issues with. But now, I mean, we're cool now, actually. After we found each other on Instagram not too long ago, so of course we're cool,
Right. I mean, you grown a lot since that time. I mean, it was a different time in your life. I can completely understand that. But just hearing the story of how the producers are basically like setting you up to fight somebody, and like, hold up now. Now, this is going to show up sometime later, because we are in the age of social media building.
Exactly.
And so you had to watch what you were doing. So I get that. I understand it. I just wanted to get your point of view from it. And the fact that you did that all while having a radio career, and you were still able to maintain that, because more so now, they try to push to have social media stars and reality television stars to do radio versus having an actual personality. And so you were able to bypass that whole thing.
Yeah.
You did it kind of, you already had the career, and then you took a dip, and then you were able to go back. And I think that that's something that people probably don't know about you. There's a story that hasn't been told very, very often, and I'm glad that you told it here. Okay.
Yeah.
So we're going to move on a little bit, because I want to talk about, earlier you were talking about some of the things that you had going on. Like you worked at Enterprise Rent-A-Car at one point, after the fact that you did all this stuff with radio and it just all came to a stop. What are some of the other adversities that you've had to deal with over time while building your career to where it is right now? Because, you still have a ways to go, because you ain't stopped yet. You're still going.
Right. I'm a young girl at HUR, so I'm going to be there for a while.
Right, exactly. But what are some of the other adversities that you've had to deal with over the years?
I would just have to say, honestly, the biggest thing that a lot of female radio personalities have to deal with is the male ego. I told myself early on that I never want to be in no man's shadow. I don't want to be nobody's sidekick on a morning show. No shade to women that do that. Right. But for me, I just knew that my brand, Autumn Joi Live, was big enough in and of itself to where I could carry myself, and I didn't need to be the such and such show with Autumn Joi Live. Like I never subscribed to that notion. But the male ego, just constantly like being overlooked or being looked at as like, oh, she's young, she don't know, she's, or getting hit on, or saying stuff to you. And within the urban radio industry, that's commonplace, because there's really no checks and balances for it. If you go to HR, you're blackballed. If so it's almost like you have to grin and bear it, and you have to, and it's like, if you stand up for yourself, then that person can become an asshole to you. So let's say he's like, oh man, damn, them titties looking nice in that shirt, girl. Oh. If I respond with, yo, don't say that to me, I will, then I risk, mind you, he's the star of the station. Mm-hmm. He's the one that everybody loves. He can create any narrative that he wants and can completely blackball me from doing anything at the radio station. So if I respond that way, a way that he doesn't like, then I'm ostracized. If I'm too soft, then he feels like he can do it again, and I'm not. So it's a very weird kind of a space, especially an attractive female, because yes, I've been able to use what I've got to right. Get to wrong with it. Yeah, but I can tell you this: I've never, ever had to sleep with anybody. I've never had to. I've never had to do anything sexual to get anything that I wanted. As a matter of fact, because I didn't do that, it took me 10 years to become an overnight sensation. So it's if you take that easy road, that person always has that dangling over top of you. Right. And it never really works out in the woman's favor, because you'll always have that stigma of, oh, she effed to get to where she is. You can, J Belle, you can ask anybody in the industry. Autumn Joi Live has never had to do anything to get to where I am now. And it was hard. I
Right.
mean, when I was at satellite radio, I had a very well-known person in the industry who is still very well known in the industry come at me. And because I rejected those, uh, like literally like pulled his junk out, and because I rejected that and walked away, I was not able to get the on air position that I wanted at Shade 45. Like because I was a sidekick with the Gomez brothers, but they were looking at me to do, have an actual shift. And because I rejected his advances, I never got it. And that's why I left New York and came back to Maryland, because I got shut out. And that's when like the suicidal thoughts started to come into play, when I just didn't think I was good enough and I wasn't pretty enough, or maybe I should have just taken him up on his advances. I wouldn't be back home. And and it's hard. It's hard because you do all of this hard work, you're talented, and your career gets derailed because you decline a sexual advance from a pig, and so again, and that's why I empathize with women. My career has been riddled with other women who have tried to fight me. I've had a woman who, well known, literally tried to fight me because this is when I was an intern. She was late for her on air shift. I was there passing out t-shirts at the event, standing next to the PD at the time. The girl was late. We had to interview artists. They were scrambling. The PD grabbed me and was like, Autumn, go enter here's the mic, headphones. We're going up in 10. I'm like, oh. And I just turned it on. Interview went flawlessly and it was good. And then when the girl got there, she looked at me as if I was trying to, and so like wanted to fight me. I've had women badmouth me, and that's why now, J Belle, I pride myself in making sure that I'm just a nice person, especially to young girls that are trying to get in the industry. There's enough space for all of us. Right. And anybody that reaches out to me or wants advice or wants to talk, I'm always available, because I didn't have that coming up. I didn't have a nice person to me coming up. I had to just figure it out on my own. So I told myself that when I got into a position of power or a position where people looked at me as, a beacon or whatever, that I would never be that mean girl, because I remember how it made me feel. I remember crying, like, why are people like this towards me? But I had to understand that they didn't like the way I was able to move and how I had favor over my life. So it was more so they didn't like the favor that I was being shown.
Right.
And, I've gotten it from male PDs. I've gotten it from GMs. I've gotten it from I'm talking about, I could name names right now that your jaw would be on the ground.
Well, let's not do that.
Oh, no. I'm definitely not. I would never, ever, girl. No. I would never do that. But last point, I had a situation where we were at a concert, Travis Scott concert, and there was a very big wig that was in town, and my PD, our online editor, one of the other on-air personalities, and my homegirl that I invited. And we were all standing in like the corridor, just waiting, for the concert to start. And I looked at the big wig dude. I was like, hey, welcome. How long are you in town for? He said, I was like, okay, cool. I said, are you planning on going out anywhere? Girl, I kid you not. In front of everybody. He was like, I mean, why? Did you want to come back to my hotel room with me? I looked at my PD, turned around and walked away. I guess he didn't want to.
He wouldn't get involved in it. That's crazy.
I looked at my online editor. She was like, oh. And I was just like, oh, no, I'm good. Thank you, though. Not thank you. I said, oh, no, I'm good. And just like grabbed my phone. I was like, yo.
That's out of pocket.
That just goes to show you how the culture in urban radio can be. And it's like, and these people, they get promoted. They get accolades slapped on the back. Like they're the biggest. It's just hard. It's hard.
I'm glad that you told that story. It definitely is hard. I've had some similar situations, especially when I was living in Las Vegas. And so I feel your pain without going to it too much, especially with the depression and an anxiety when you're feeling like you're not good enough when you're trying to fight your way up. And I'm glad that you're very open about that, because I was talking about this with another guest, that we don't talk enough about depression and anxiety in our industry, because we're so engulfed in it. It becomes us. That's who we are. And so when it's taken from us, or our life has to change around it, where we're not doing the same thing anymore, it's really hard to look at anything else.
Yeah.
And so the stories that you're telling, first of all, you're transparent as hell. You're more transparent than I am. And I think and I think that that's something that people need to hear, because we hear about all the glitz and the glory and the glamorous, and we try to make ourselves look like we're always happy doing this and that, but they don't understand or know what the story is behind it to get you to that point.
Yeah.
You know, like your life, I don't know everything because I'm not with you 24/7. I only see what I see on social media, and then when I talk to you ever so often, is that your life right now is really good. You're in a really good place. You're happier. Your skin is glowing. You're doing your thing. You're doing the shit up there. But obviously, to get to that point, you've had to deal with certain bullshit.
Yes.
To get there. Yeah. And it sucks that as a woman, that type of thing, that story that you just told about a bigwig, that's something that women have to deal with, not just in urban radio, but in the entertainment industry, period.
Yeah.
And they're scared to talk about it because of the fact that they're scared to get blackballed or blacklisted also, or have opportunities taken away from them. And so they keep quiet about it, and then it dives deeper into their soul, and then it takes them down a journey that they never thought they were going to go into. Yeah. And I think that we have to start holding these big wigs and these power players, men and women, accountable when things like that happen. Yeah. You know, otherwise the culture is never going to change, period. No matter how many protests or how loud you yell about it or whatever, until the culture is changed within itself. Yeah. The same crap, same shit is always going to happen. And so I'm trying not to curse, but damn it, I got to.
Well, girl, it's because this is a very real, like you said, transparent conversation.
Right. And it's so real. It's so like it's happening to too many of us. And we're too scared to talk about it, like I said. And so with that, with the credentials that you have, you know, is it still difficult to create your own space within the media radio world, especially even now with the Me Too movement and, you know, COVID and, you know, all of the injustices against our people, against our community. This happened over, I'm going to say, the past 8 years, not 5, 8. Because even when Barack Obama was in office, it was really starting to boil over, and now it's gotten worse. So, you know, do you feel like it's still difficult for you to create that space for yourself?
You know what? Not necessarily. For me, this is a really good question, and how I go about my social media and just like my show prep, just daily life. Well, let's just focus on social media. I just post how I feel. So what I mean by that is I go through waves, you know, of how I decide to present myself. So I do believe that as radio personalities, you know, because it's no longer how it was back in the day where they didn't see the face behind the mic. Now you can see who the person is. Right. You know, there's a certain amount of sex appeal that you have to have without going too far over. Now, I'm not saying bust it wide open with your headphones in your face. You know, I'm not saying do all of that. Right. But you definitely want to come off as being like the girl next door, but also have some sex appeal with it. And so I do find it, because of like where we are right now in society, and how Black people are being portrayed, and how white people are, you know, just it may not be as appropriate to post, you know, a bikini shot, or it's you almost have to kind of feel like I just really kind of feel before I post, like, okay, how's the atmosphere? What's the temperature on social media? if we're talking about George Floyd being shot and that's all on my timeline, nobody's going to want to see me in a bikini. You know, like people are going to scroll past, like, girl, not right now. Cute, but not right now. Let me see where. So you have to just kind of go with the flow and just really know how to read your followers. I don't even know if I'm really answering the question all the way. Like it's like it's in my head, but I'm trying to like really get it out into words. I just make sure that whatever I'm posting and whatever I'm saying is politically correct.
Okay.
And as much as it sucks, because it's like, I really want to go in on the terrorists that attacked the Capitol.
Right.
And it's crazy because as that was happening, I'm watching it unfold. I'm live on my show. So we cut the music. I got my news guy on the phone with me. He's talking. I'm like, wait, Harold, they're motioning them to come in. What the heck is going on? So you have to have a certain amount of emotion with it, but you can't be like, look at these crackers on TV. You know what I mean? Even though that's what you want to say,
right?
You have to use your emotional intelligence, you know, all the time when you're on the radio. I know when I first got to HUR, you know, I was very political. I was talking that smack. I was doing all that. And my PD, Al, he was like, hey, great opinions, great, but let the listeners have those extreme opinions. You always play the middle. Like you always be just the voice of reason.
Right.
And that really resonated with me because I was like, oh my God, Donald Trump. But I have white listeners. Like in my mind, it's an urban station, but it's a huge market. And so we're number one with people across the board. And so you don't want to turn off your other listeners. Of course, Black people are naturally going to be like, yeah, girl, say what you got to say. But you don't want to turn everybody off. So I have to always remember just to stay right in the middle, no matter how crazy or extreme. Now, I will say that, yes, we are allowed to get emotional. Like, for instance, I did get emotional with the little infant, the baby that was shot and killed in Maryland, because that was a big deal. And yeah, I mean, I cried on my show, like, because it was that heavy and just that emotional. And so in those moments, yeah, that's what makes you human. That's what your listeners relate to. But if it's more Trump nonsense or what's going on in the Capitol, I just let my listen. I'm like, hey, did y'all see what happened? Call me now. Let's talk about it. Blah, blah, blah. These people going crazy. And I let them, these mother effers, I let them be the extremists. So I don't know if that really answered your question. But
I get what you're saying. You've kind of had to adjust and adapt in creating your space and making it work for you versus, you know, taking that all in approach. Because every market, like you said, is different. Like maybe you could have been a little extreme down in Raleigh or, you know, in Baltimore, but you're right there at the capital of the United States. And, you know, you have to kind of watch what you say. Because like you said, it's a mixture of listeners. It's not just all Black listeners. You have your white listeners, too, that enjoy R&B music. And sometimes they don't want to hear that, or they may feel a little uncomfortable within hearing that, which obviously we shouldn't care. But we have to when it comes down to ratings, making money, and adding that to our paychecks. You know,
girl,
because you got bills to pay. You know?
I need this money.
Right, you need the shmoney. You need the shmoney. Okay, now earlier you were talking about your son, how you had to pack him up, take him with you, you know, to work when you were in Baltimore, and you know, you had to move him down to Raleigh when you were living in Raleigh for almost 4 years. How do you balance being a mother in a full-time component into entertainment? Because, you know, you don't do just radio. You also do television, too. You do a couple of different things. How is it raising him in that? How do you balance motherhood with your career?
The easiest thing to do is just completely submerge him. So instead of keeping him away, you know, for instance, if I got booked for gigs, I'd bring him with me. I'd let the people know, like, hey, listen, you guys want me here for 3 hours. I've got my son with me. He'll be with, not like, oh, is it okay if he comes? No, he'll be with me. And, you know, there were moments where I remember I got booked at a nightclub, you know, and it was like from 10 to like midnight. And I packed up my son's book bag. They had I made sure they had like a back area that was secured right off the stage. packed up his book bag. I'm walking him through the crowd. People are looking like, is that a kid? I'm like, yes, it is. Excuse me, And I would just like, I would have him on stage with me. He came out and performed a couple times, did his little karate moves or whatever.
I saw that video.
Yes, girl. So it was, instead of like keeping him away from it. And again, because I was there by myself and, I don't trust people with my kid. It was either, unfortunately, I can't take this gig, or I'm taking it, but my son he's my plus one. And 9.5 times out of 10, that's what worked. And, and then I did eventually, like, Karen Clark, for instance, her son is the same age as Xavier. So, we were able to, Zay would go hang out with him sometimes, but emerging him into what I do. He does my outro on my show. He was doing drops. I would play his drops. So, just so he could see what mommy does, and also understand when mommy has to leave you at a friend's house, overnight, mommy's going to work. And he's like, oh yeah, you're going to host a club, or you're going to host a party. Like, he understood, instead of it being like, oh, mommy, why do you always leave me? It was, I wanted him to see firsthand, like, this is what mommy has to do so we can have money, baby.
Wow. And how is it raising a Black son during these crazy ass times?
You know what? It's honestly, it's a double-edged sword. It's unfortunate. It's sad because, you're seeing Black men be killed and shot at, and just, but then again too, I'm not happy that it's happening, but it's a good learning tool as well. Mm-hmm. So instead of me telling him like, okay, baby, listen, if you get pulled over, blah, blah, blah. No, baby, listen, look, George Floyd, look at the video. Mm-hmm. Oh gosh, the gentleman who got shot 7 times, his name is escaping me, but
is it Jacob Blake?
Jacob Blake, yes.
Okay.
So I have tangible examples, like, baby, look, this is what can happen if, so it's hard for me because he's going to get to an age where his mommy can't protect him, or his mommy's not going to be with him. He's going to be out on his own. And so all we could do is just pray and hope that what I told him about being respectful, and even that sometimes doesn't work, so it's like, you don't really know how to feel being a mother of a Black boy, because you just don't know how society is going to perceive your baby. My son is gentle. He is intelligent. He's smart. He's an amazing kid. I mean, he just so lovable, but society sees a Black boy. Society sees a threat. And so, sending your kids off into society to fend for themselves, there is that level of anxiety that parents feel. I now know how my parents felt once we all 5 of us went out, so right. Yeah, it's like I said, it's a double-edged sword.
Wow. I know it's crazy times, and I definitely have seen you and your son's relationship, which I love. I've also commented also because he's so cute. Y'all are cute and funny. If anything, you guys should do some type of YouTube show together or something, because I think your dynamic with your son is very rare. Yeah. Very, very rare. I really honestly think that you have a joy on your hands. And so I'm gonna ask you this. Okay. Because you talked about Karen Clark a little bit. You guys' dynamic too is rare in radio, especially when it comes to urban radio. Yeah. Not too many women are close like how you guys are. How are you able, like, how did it come about? How did you maintain, the balance? You both are, let's just be honest, you both are alpha females working in such a dominant market, and doing really well, when you were there. So how did you guys keep the friendship going without seeming like you had to be like with each other? Yeah.
Well, you know what it is? And again, and Karen, she's an Aquarius like me. And so, So if you're into like astrological signs, Aquarius women, we're very easygoing. We're very open-minded, we're not hateful or spiteful people. And so Karen was very open and nice to me when I got there. And again, I approached the situation very open-minded because I didn't really know how people were going to be. And, Karen has a very funny personality. And so coupled with me being crazy and outgoing, it just turned into a thing. And we respected each other's boundaries. Instead of like competing with each other, it was more of like fun. We made fun and we had to see each other for 3 years, every single Monday through Friday, and sometimes on the weekend. So who wants to have friction with somebody for 3 years and your studio is right next door and you have to see each other? So for me, and then I needed that energy from Karen. Like I needed a woman, another female, because I'm not one of those people that's like, oh, I don't need female friends. No, I like having female friends, genuine female friends. And that's what Karen Clark was to me. And not just that, she knows everything, like super smart. So when it came down to like my contract negotiation, finding a lawyer, stuff about my son, where to get groceries, what's the best, like I would be like, you know what? Let me go ask Karen. Let me ask Karen. Wow. Or if I needed like an opinion, she's again very smart. I'd pull her on my show, like, Karen, I got Karen Clark here, and we would just pull each other on each other's show. And so it was never a competition, like even when like Asia would come in the studio, hey, we got Asia Sky, Asia, come say what's up. I never approach radio or look at radio as I'm the only chick in town.
Right.
I'm the only one that's here. I'm the only one. No, it's a collective effort. I don't own radio. I don't own this station, and if I am as hugely popular as I am, yes, I'll use my platform so people know who you are as well. Like, hey, Asia's on this weekend. Asia, what you got going on? Oh, hey, catch Karen Clark on. What does it matter at the end of the day? If you really, what does it really matter? So, I appreciate Karen Clark and she is, like you said, definitely a rare jewel in the radio game because, and I'm seeing it more now. I'm seeing more female unity now, but as you know, because you got to think, it's always only been one, maybe even two positions available on air at a radio station for a female. Right. Either you're the sidekick doing the gossip segment or interjecting here and there on a morning show, right. Maybe middays, and that's it. Or maybe like a part-time weekend shift. So women for a very long time were catty to each other because it's like, okay, I'm here. You look over, you see another girl kind of lurking. You're just like, why is she here? Like, she's trying to come from and that's what I experienced. When I was coming in, I'm just excited to be in the room, but you're looking at me like I'm coming for your job. And it's like, no. So like I said, I told myself as I could continue to grow in this industry, I never wanted to come off as that mean girl or have a reputation for being a mean girl.
And I love that because you also do, a very fun event. I haven't got to go yet, and obviously I'm in Phoenix, so I won't be able to go, but you're also going to do it virtually. Radio Run.
Yay! Yeah.
Yes. So I saw your first one that you did last year before COVID came over and took everything, but you also test ran it in when you were working in Raleigh. Yeah, there you go. Promo. You kind of test ran it in Raleigh during, I don't think it was was it Women's Empowerment Weekend?
No, well, so that was one, but that was the one I did with the foster care girls.
Okay. Yeah. And so I saw you do that, but I also saw the video of when you did it in Raleigh. When you did it last year, I was already here, or no, I don't think I was here. Was I here? Yes, I was here. I was here in Phoenix, so I didn't get to come. But you put together this program to teach young women how to get into radio. And you have a certain method. What is that method?
Yeah. So it's called the PrEP method. And the reason why, okay. Because so PrEP, I did all of this, like this whole manual I did from scratch, like really sat down, locked myself in the library, turned on some classical music, and really just did it from everything from scratch. And so the acronym that we came up with was PrEP, passion, realization, effort, planning, and preparation. And so with those key points, I, of course, bullet pointed them and then gave people real tangible advice on how to make it, not just in radio, but the entertainment industry, period. Mm-hmm. And so the idea, you know, and again, shout out to my boyfriend, Rich, you know, he was very instrumental in helping me really realize my full potential and really just like pushing me. Cause these were ideas that I had for like 2 years. And I was like, oh, I'll get around to it. And he was like, no, this is good. Let's put it, you know. And so, yeah. And I was like, you know what? Let me get serious about it. But then that component of doubting myself, and J Belle, I still do this to this day. I know you're gonna be like, why? But I still have a doubting component where I'm like, okay, I got my manual, but is anybody going to want to come and hear it from me? Like, do people even like me that much? Like, do they think I'm successful enough to really? Mm. And girl, that thing sold out. So, you know, it's for me, again, because I didn't have anybody helping me along my journey. Like outside of like Donnie Simpson, my very first gig, I didn't have like a mentor or anybody that I reached out to that could say, hey girl, this is what you do. I had to figure this out as I went along. And so I was like, you know what? I want to help people. I want to create a method. I want to create an event. I want to create something where it doesn't just tell people, keep on believing and you too can make it. Like, no. Yeah. What do I tangibly need to know and to do so that I can be successful in entertainment? And so, yeah, that's where Radio Run, you know, came from. And that's what birthed the whole, like literally, girl, it's a manual. Like,
yeah, I seen it on your Instagram and you were like testing it and showing it out. And then you had the whole video. And I really think that something like this is great because it's something local. Because, you know, you have the big radio prep conventions for everybody to go to, but those things are expensive. They're like $400, and that's just for general admission. So to have something like that for young women that are looking to get into it, but they're looking at it in a different way, they can't afford to go to these big events, and they have somebody that, to me, you are very successful, and you've made a very successful run in radio, just being yourself. That's what they want to know and want to see. You know, sometimes when they have these huge conventions, it's a bunch of old white men that are kind of out of touch, and they don't understand. Right. They don't understand all the aspects of how radio is changing. They stick to the old book. And so you have this in front of you. They understand it. They get it. And even though they may not go into commercial radio per se right away, you can still use that same method that you've created and do things like what I'm doing, a podcast, or create things, you know, even now through streaming, and still do the same thing and take that and make it into something more. And so I like the fact that you have that you have this program for everyone, because not like we said earlier, sometimes women don't always have a unified, they're not always united because we've been taught to be pitted against one another because we're in a male-dominated industry, and that's what they expect us to do, to fight each other to the brink of death in order to get a sidekick role, or maybe middays, or, you know, maybe afternoons if it's you're really popping like that, or maybe if you're sleeping with the program director. I mean, I'm just saying. Don't shoot me for that, because I don't know if that's happening, but I'm just saying. But you can take this method that you have and put it into different perspectives. And so I love that about it. And I definitely wanted to bring that into the conversation. And so we're going into my last couple of questions before we play a game of Black Card Revolt.
Okay.
Where do you see yourself in 5 years?
Oh, I see myself, of course, still with WHUR. I see myself doing more television, doing more acting. You know, I that is something about me that a lot of people don't know. I've done a couple of movies, you know, I mean, like internet stuff, like local movies. I have a movie on Amazon Prime, actually, called Two Aces and a Dirty Heart. Yeah. So, you know, I definitely, and then being with WHUR, I am under a union, which now allows me to be SAG-AFTRA. So I pay my union dues. And so I have my SAG card. So now I can legit like go and get acting gigs. So, stay tuned, because your girl, me, I pop up on some stuff. One thing I don't do is broadcast anything I'm working on or talk about it until it's like go time and it's about to happen. But yeah, within the next 5 years, I definitely want to branch out and do more major motion pictures. I want to open up my own business, my own brick and mortar. That's something that, I'm working on now, and creating, and just, that I don't want to rush that process. So 5 years is perfect, because that's right around the time when I'm like, I really want it to be up and running, and just continuing to dominate the market in the DMV area. I mean, I just want to, I'll say this, like, there is no greater pleasure to me than dominating in a market that tried to shut me out twice. Ooh. I'm gonna leave it there. So for me, it is a huge accomplishment when you thought that you weren't talented enough to be in a bigger market. Maybe you weren't good enough to be syndicated like everybody else was. I doubted myself, but to come home and to be on a heritage station and dominate within my first month of being here, and then the numbers are consistent, it was never my talent. It was never my talent. And so I just want to continue to just keep my foot on the gas and continue to entertain people and to grow my live squad. Because, that was something that I came up with, and I'm happy that I have that, because people really genuinely feel like they're family with me. And so I just want to grow that. I want to grow, my live squad, my cruise. We did a cruise last year. We had a lot of people, and we couldn't do it this year because of COVID, obviously. But I want to grow that. I want to grow my travel group, and we just travel around, and the live squad takes over Vegas, takes over a resort somewhere. Like and I learned from the radio greats, like, you have to pay attention to what these men that have dominated this radio game for so long, you have to watch what they do. Tom Joyner has had his cruise since Jesus was a baby. And that was a huge moneymaker for him. Mm-hmm. So I paid attention to that, thus birthing the Live Squad cruise. Again, we only had the inaugural one, but for me to have my first event and for people to like pay money to go on a cruise, like, that's big, And so I pay attention to that. And so for me, radio is radio. It's my passion. It's my first love. But radio is the avenue that I'm just going to use to get me to that next level. Because I'm trying to get to a whole nother tax bracket. I'm trying to get to the Tom Joyner level. I'm trying to get to the Ricky Smiley level. I want Autumn Joi Live to be up there. When you hear about radio greats and you hear names, I want Autumn Joi Live to be up there. That takes me back to my point where I don't want to be a sidekick under somebody else's umbrella. I don't want to be in somebody's shadow. I don't want to have to try to book stuff as, oh, I'm such and such from such and such show. And they looking at me like, oh yeah, okay, but can you get your boy to come? No. It's Autumn Joi Live.
It's okay?
All mine, my brand. And I think that, and I've seen a lot of women doing that, and I love it. I love it. I love the fact that there's women that believe in themselves enough, like the J Bells of the world, to, create your logo and create your marketing, and to just keep going and keep staying visual. And again, I do talk about that in my radio run, but that's very key. That's very important. And I said it the other day, don't focus on how many likes you're getting. Don't focus on how many views you're getting. Like, I have over 50,000 followers, and I still sometimes average only 1,200 views on videos or 600 likes on pictures, and so if I focused on that, and I used to look at it and say, oh, I only got 500 likes. Let me take this down. Nobody liked it. Girl, you're going to take this picture. I'm sorry that I'm not showing more ass, but this is me. This is my timeline. Take it and y'all go. Like, and once you remove that from, once you stop trying to please everybody and just focus on what you're doing, girl, listen, you'll be surprised. Like, J Belle, I'm telling you, girl, you've got what it takes. You just haven't, you're laying the foundation now for what's great to come for J Belle and your brand. everything that you're doing right now is preparing you for that next level of success. And it hasn't,
cry.
no, I mean, because you have to understand, and I've seen your struggle, Jay. I've seen what you've been trying to do. I've seen how people try to shut you out. I've seen how you like, comment, and support everybody else. But when it comes to what you're doing, 4 or 5 likes, 12 views, and me, I'm a like whatever you got going on. So, but I've been there. I've been there when I was trying to claw my way back into commercial radio. I've felt like I wasn't being seen. I felt like maybe this isn't for me. But girl, let me tell you something. Everything that you are doing right now is laying that foundation for when you do get that big break. If I had gotten my big break 10 years ago, I would be out of radio right now because I wasn't ready. I was not ready. I wasn't in my mind. I thought, oh, I got it. I'm here. But God was like, no, girl, you still got, you still have more life lessons to do. If I hadn't been in property management, I wouldn't really know paperwork, reading my contract, making sure everything is correct, being organized, everything that's prepared me for the moment that I'm in right now. And so that's why I'm able to do so well in this space and where I am, because I went through those hard moments. I was overlooked. I was being laughed at. And not saying you're being laughed at, but I'm just saying I was being laughed at. I was the one that, people were on the inside, on the out, like they could have helped me, but didn't. So I just want to encourage you to keep doing everything that you're doing. I mean, I love the platform that you're on. I think you were doing something with some morning show or something with some guy.
Oh yeah, I did a Mornings Across America. Yeah, it's a very
girl, that's dope.
He's kind of stopped it though because he hasn't got a whole lot of talent to come in, and he had to book him himself, and it was like he had too much else going on. So yeah, and I can understand that.
Yeah, but for me, I'm such a huge fan of yours because you have not stopped. You've kept going, and you still post. You still create your content. You're very transparent. You talk about your journey. You talk about what's going on in your life with your breast reduction and, everything, and even being transparent about like your makeup and your hair and your mom and your dad. Like that is everything that you're doing. You don't see it now, but it's preparing you for whatever opportunity God has for you in the future. And it's going to come. It's going to come. And we don't know what it's going to look like.
Right.
I don't know what it's going to look like. But it's going to come. It will.
I appreciate that, Autumn. I really do. God, I wasn't expecting that. It was like, don't make me cry. I'm supposed to want.
No, because I like you. You're a very supportive person. Like you support everybody and don't necessarily get the support back from them. And, and it sucks because what people think is that, and don't take this the wrong way, because this is how I was looked at. Mm-hmm. You're not important enough to really pay attention to. People don't pay attention. People didn't start paying attention to me until I got to K975. And then it was like, oh,
you're somebody
but I took it and ran, girl. You couldn't tell me like, all right, babe. I let people really thought that K975 was my first opportunity in radio. And I'm like, you know what? If that's what y'all want to think, that's fine. I don't care what people think. And that's another thing. Mm-hmm. I stopped caring about what people thought. And I just moved the way that I wanted to move. And acted and talked the way that I wanted to act and talk. And I just was my authentic self. That was it. Right. That was it, literally. And so,
that's what I'm having to learn now, because I am, I'm halfway through my 30s. I always talk about I'm 35. Mm-hmm. And so I feel like for women in radio or entertainment, once you get to a certain age, they start to age you out as though you're not relevant enough, or that you no longer fit in with the demographic or the crowd of listeners that they're trying to bring in. And it's like, no, baby. I still listen to all this plus more, and I'm not just a sidekick. I bring something to the table. And like you said before, like a lot of times men's egos are a lot bigger than what they should be.
Yeah.
And I've had to, and I'm still learning. I'm still getting it. I had an opportunity in Vegas when I was like getting ready to turn 30. Didn't have enough faith. Left before I could even get offered the job. And so when I got offered the job a month later after I moved back home, when I tell you I was pissed at myself, I was so mad. Even though it was part-time, I spent 5 years even getting to that part of being back on air on a station that I really wanted to be on. Yeah. And so building that journey back up and getting back into it, one of the biggest reasons why I took the job as an online editor, which is where I met you at when we were both working for, Urban One, is because I wanted to get back into programming. Now, no lie, the company as a whole is great, but the particular market I was in, the blowback came when I started wanting to be back in programming.
Yeah.
And so that blowback not only came from the program director I was working with and the GM, also in a way from my supervisor and my boss of the division I was working in. And so, I was like, okay, I'm gonna stuff those dreams back down for a little bit. Let me stay here for another year. Let me build my money back up, and then I'm out. And then, God works in funny ways. He laid me off from that job because he knew I was miserable, I was unhappy, and I knew under the new management that was coming in, I wasn't going to get that opportunity again. Yeah, because they just didn't want to bring it my way, even though it was possible to work in digital and in programming. I could do both. I mean, I very much, I'm doing it now. This is digital. You know what I'm saying? I can edit, I can shoot, and then I can go back and voice stuff. Anyway, the fact that you said all that, I do appreciate it. I really, really do. I think when we first actually met in person, which was the women's empowerment.
And you curled my hair, remember?
No, and you curled mine. You gave me the church curl. The church curl.
Yeah. I was like, girl, I don't know what I'm doing, but I got you.
Right, I got that video. The fact that I talked to you and you were so laid back, and watching you work when you were interviewing Angela Rye. And yes. I gotta find that interview.
Go ahead, I'm sorry.
Right. When I saw you work and I saw you interview her, and she was just so comfortable talking to you, and you were comfortable. It wasn't no stiffness. It wasn't anything, even though everybody was crowding the room. Yeah, all these cameras in your face.
Yeah.
You was like, it was just y'all two sitting there talking. And I was like, oh shit, that's somebody I need to know. Because I'm trying to build my confidence back up in doing this. And let me tell y'all something. Autumn Joi was out there. She was showing out with them outfits. You had your outfit changes. Honey, I think I took a picture. And I was like, Autumn Joi got the thigh out on stage. Okay. You was doing. Right, you had to give them what the you was doing. I was like, this is what I need to do. So now it's like I go into thinking, okay, I need to buy certain clothes because you never know what's going to come up. I need to look a certain way on camera. Like all the things that you were talking about, sex appeal, just getting all that together. And like you said, that everything happens for a reason. It's not on your timing, it's God's timing. And so with that said, we are going to play a game of Black Card Revolt.
Ooh, come on, sound effects.
Right. Want to hear it again?
Let's do it again.
Yeah. Now you gotta get 4 out of 5 in order to keep your black card. Otherwise, I'm snatching it.
I can't get my black card revoked, babe.
You're gonna get your black card revoked. Okay. All right. So first question up. All right. What does it mean? This is according to Mama. What does it mean if she dreamt of fish last night?
You pregnant.
You did it before I could even get it out.
Yeah, I'm trying to keep my black card.
All right, you got that one. Okay. All right. So next one. Approximately how long did Sophia have to fight?
All my life I had to fight.
There you go. You got another one. Okay, next one. Which character from Martin lived on the 5th floor?
Bruh man from the 5th floor.
Dang it, you getting them. All right. Okay, all right, here we go. All right, we got 2 left. All right. Who is Oprah Winfrey's best friend?
Gail.
I knew you were going to know that one. Okay. All right. Last one. I don't think you're going to get this one, but either way, you won. So let's go ahead and ask it. When grandma tells you to wrench it off, what do you need to complete the task? A wrench. B, lots of salt. C, hot sauce, or D, water?
D, water.
That's because I gave it to you. That's because I gave it to you. That's okay. All right. Autumn Joi, you have been a joy. No pun intended. I enjoy having you on. For all of my new listeners and new viewers that will be watching this also on the radio fam, for breaking the ceiling, because you definitely have broke the ceiling. Give your socials.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So you guys can follow me on Instagram, Autumn Joi with an I, live. Facebook, it's Autumn Joi Barrett, because you got to have your government on there. Twitter, Autumn Joi Live. So pretty much everything Autumn Joi Live.
Okay. And if they want to get the latest in gossip and entertainment, people do not realize you also have a website of your own doing the same thing. Give them that.
Well, the website is currently under construction.
Okay,
but
so don't watch that right now.
Yeah. But my Instagram is open. But if you know anybody that is good with like blogging and running social media, I am looking for somebody to run my autumnjoylive.com Instagram page and my website. So yeah,
is it a paid gig or an intern?
It's a little bit of both, but
okay.
I definitely do pay. So it's not, I'm not looking to pay a salary, but
right. No, I understand. I just want so that people that look for this, they see this like, oh, where can I contact her? Because I need something right now, especially college students.
Okay. Yeah, like just if you're looking for like not little bit of gas money, but groceries, and gas and maybe a bill, yeah, then I'm your girl, but
gotcha.
Yeah, I ain't balling like that just yet to do a salary. It's coming though. It's coming.
We gotta manifest, yes. Making it rain. There you go. There you go. Once again, Autumn Joi, thank you so much for being a part of this. You are always a joy and funny as hell. Okay.
Oh, thank you. And say that again for Rich to hear. You hear that, Rich? I'm funny. You are. Yeah, he thinks I'm funny.
He said, yes, you are.
Yeah, he know what to say.
Y'all gonna be getting it in with all that drinking over there on a Sunday.
We grown over here.
Right, you right about that. All right, guys, until next time, I will be dropping my next guest after this episode. Stay masked up, stay safe, and make sure that you're also doing everything that you can to keep the game going. Holla.